Good morning again, and welcome to this side event of Collaboration Synergies Driving Innovation for the Green Transition, Energy Transition. It is a collaboration between Sustainable Heating and Cooling by Sweden and Celsius within the framework of the fantastic Euroheating Power Congress. We're all very excited and honored to be here. Why Collaboration Synergies? We have very ambitious goals for 2030 and 2050 to become a carbon neutral economy across Europe. To be able to attain these goals, we all must work together and move very quickly. We cannot wait another minute. We cannot wait another second. We need to stop working separately, each in our own corner, and stop working in silos between companies, between sectors. Cross-border collaboration is key. A clear example is the rise of sector integration we see in the energy sector. What do we mean by cross-border collaborations? We mean across continents, across nations, of course, as Marie will point out, between cities. They are the making things happen, as Marcus will share his experience with us. We mean also between companies. It goes faster if we collaborate instead of compete with each other. You can build on each other's strengths and complement each other's weaknesses. And last but not least, between technologies. Sometimes technologies can fill each other's gaps, and Anders will give us a little bit more experience. So who are all these names and fascinating people we have here? So here's our fantastic panel of discussions. We will start with quick presentations of each. If you have questions for that presentation, once again, please write it in the chat function. And if not, we'll have a discussion session in the end. We really want to focus on the discussion and then the interaction with you. So without further ado, Marie, please turn your camera on and your microphone. Welcome to this discussion. Thank you for being here with us today. What is your experience and what do you have to tell us about these stakeholders driving cross-border collaboration?
Thank you, Emilia. Thank you for this great collaboration. We have already started, you know. So I think it will be really interesting to share this today. Well, through this Sustainable Heating and Cooling initiative that is led by the government through the Swedish Energy Agency, together with Business Sweden, that are the organization implementing it, where I work. We have this collaboration between both energy stakeholders. We have the suppliers, municipalities working together. So we have already a great collaboration here. So maybe you can put next slide, please. Yes, for this initiative, we have, you know, that Sweden has sustainable energy as a priority, in both also within district heating and cooling. So that's why we have started this initiative. Next slide, please. And we work together with a network of leading suppliers of technology and services, and also the industry associations. The aim for us is really to promote collaboration and facilitate knowledge sharing, and also to do this both on the focus markets, that is the UK, Ireland, France, China, and the Netherlands, but also to support in the development and implementation of the sustainable heating and cooling solutions around Europe and across the world. So please, next slide. And here is just a picture to show the around 45 companies that are within our network, leading companies with solutions to contribute to the sustainable heating and cooling networks and other solutions. And we also collaborate with you, the Celsius initiative, of course, but also the Association Sweden Cooling and the Swedish Bioenergy Climate Solutions. So altogether, we can offer and support and have the knowledge sharing between different stakeholders in your countries. Next slide, please. And just to have some examples, what we do then, we organize, well, before the corona, we have the live seminars and conferences, but of course, since last year, we organize a lot of webinars and digital workshops, thematic, together with municipalities in the countries where we are focusing this initiative on. And we also have the possibility to, and we have also organized, and we'll do in the future life when we could meet. Policy forums and delegations would like to bring interested actors up to Sweden, of course. And we have already collaborated with the Euro Power Congress, participating in Nantes in 2019, and do a lot of purchasing collaborations. So it's really cross-border through the different stakeholders within the ecosystem, you can say, and also out over the borders between different countries. Next slide, please. So we'll be really happy to continue to work with the ones we already have initiated contact with, but also with new ones. So welcome to contact us. Here are some of us working with this network: Paul Westin from the Swedish Energy Agency, Robin Banks heading the program in the UK and Ireland, Eva Ferrier in the Netherlands, and Judith Zhao in Beijing. And we have, of course, other team members, as Cecilia Hedlund, calling into this call today, and others. So welcome to join us on our LinkedIn page or at the web page. And we have also a monthly newsletter that you can connect to. So thank you, Emilia. Back to you.
Thank you. I must say that newsletter is very, very interesting. We often get a lot of inspiration from the articles you publish there and the reports you do, very, very interesting reports. So I definitely recommend people reading that newsletter. Thank you for that introduction about sustainable heating and cooling. And as you say, you work a very internationally cross regional collaboration. At the Celsius Initiative, we work within Europe between cities. So for those of you who don't know us yet, the Celsius Initiative is a European project that lives on. It started about a little under 10 years ago, when before this whole energy transition, green movement started, where the cities of London and the borough of Islington, Rotterdam, Cologne, Genoa, and the city of Gothenburg saw there's this huge energy poverty in cities. People are not getting the energy. We're being forced to import gas, which is polluting, and we often import it from countries where the political and economic system does not really align with the values that we have in Europe. What can we do? And they saw in the Nordics and Sweden and Norway and Finland and Denmark a lot, there's a solution that really improves the energy systems and provides robust and reliable heating and cooling for cities, district heating and cooling. So we did this project, European project financed by the Horizon 7th Framework Program, so the grandparent of the Horizon Europe now, until 2017. And at the end of 2017, we realized, okay, we had managed to gather a network of cities, a network of actors, uploaded information to a wiki online. It would be a pity to let this go. So we had to continue. And we've continued with the purpose of accelerating the energy transition through the deployment of smart and sustainable heating and cooling solutions in cities. And here I would like to focus cities, because as we heard before, this is where the action is happening, and smart and sustainable heating and cooling solutions. Oftentimes it's district heating and cooling, which is very important, but sometimes there are other solutions. And this is what we also want to look at today. Okay, what technologies are being developed and how can they be relevant for everybody, and how can we adapt those solutions to the local needs? We are a demand-driven collaboration hub, and this is where I like to say we've grown from a project where we used to define our work on our demonstrators and then share them. But there are many things happening out there. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. We do continuous knowledge sharing through, we also have a monthly newsletter, which we get very inspired from the newsletter that Manny talked about earlier. We have monthly webinars. One of examples, this one's a little specific. It's an extra special webinar because we can do it in the framework of the European Power Congress, but similar to this one. We have workshops. When we can meet again, we'll have physical workshops, and we have the Celsius Toolbox, where we upload project results and studies and definitions that may be useful for anybody on the long term looking for solutions in implementing heating and cooling networks. We provide hands-on support for cities through Earth Foreigner groups. Marcus might be able to give an example of that. He's part of one of our groups, and I'll give a little bit more example. We're in big collaboration with European Power. We continue to work on European policy, because it's great to do all this work on land, on the floor, but we need to collaborate. We need to make sure that we have the right legacies, policies, and incentives at a European level. And finally, we support innovation and replication scaling. We do not innovate and do ourselves, but because there are solutions out there, there are things being happen, and the best thing we can do is simply replicate and support the replication. How do we provide hands-on support for cities? We have created what we call forerunner groups, and it's sounding boards for cities. We help them look at the big picture and ask questions to experts. So it's a co-creation process with and for cities based on peer-to-peer support. So we have cities talking to cities with the support of experts so they can exchange and inspire each other, show what's possible. We support cities plan and implement these solutions, heating and cooling, and help them avoid costly mistakes based on the experience of those who have already done it, a little bit the principle what we wanted to achieve today here in this side event. And we try to make them include a systemic approach. Oftentimes we just look at the technology or just look at one part. And I think many of you here in the audience will agree that that's not the challenge. The challenge is the stakeholder, it's the financing, it's having the right policies in place involving the local, the national, the European government. So we try to work with all this. All these levels with the cities. For the moment, we have 5 groups, each focusing on a special area. And in the fall, we'll start a new group in collaboration with the Smart Cities Marketplace, focusing on financing. So if you're interested, please do contact us, celsiuscity.eu. So I've talked a lot about cities and how we support cities, but let's hear from a city. Marcus, you are the energy strategist and project manager for the municipality of Lund. So how are cities, in your experience in Lund, which is a very dynamic, innovative city here in the south of Sweden, how do you feel you're at the heart of this energy transition?
Well, we're doing our best, I would say. Thank you for inviting me here. Should I continue with
Thank you for joining us. Yes, please share your screen. Do.
I share my screen. I thought you would share it.
Oh, would you like me to share it? It's fine.
Yes, please.
Okay, absolutely. Then let's go. No, absolutely no problem. More than happy to do so.
Oh, so yes, thank you for inviting me here. And I'm Marcus Paulsson from the city of Lund, energy strategist. And just for those of you who don't know where Lund is, it's in the very south of Sweden. It's the oldest city in Sweden. And we are continuously growing and has been doing so for the last 100 years at least. And today we have approximately 125,000 inhabitants. So a lot of focus in the city is to keep up with this growth, that we have to provide new housing and new services for all the new citizens in the city. And Lund is also maybe best known for its university, which has more than 40,000 students. And we are also very ambitious concerning our environmental ambitions. And we had a target of reducing the CO2 emissions from 1990 to 2020 by 50%. And we actually reached that goal 2 years in advance. And district heating played a very important role in achieving this target. And of course, we are not stopping there. Our next aim is to become net carbon neutral by 2030. And which includes, of course, we have to have negative emissions as well. Yes, this growth of the city has been important in the development, but we're not forgetting old districts as well. So we are also not only building very new districts with new housing, we are also taking care of old housing with renovation and retrofitting schemes. Next slide, please. And in Lund, we have had district heating since the 1950s. It's today owned by Kraftringen, the energy utility that is owned by the city of Lund, at least 80% of it, and the rest is owned by the neighboring municipalities. And today the district heating supplies around 90% of the heat demand within the city. And that is equivalent to 1 terawatt hours per year. And since 1998, this is 100% renewable, which has been a very important part of us achieving the 50% reduction of carbon emissions. And since we have been working with this for very long, it's with the district heating network is now stretching beyond city borders. First to the neighboring towns of Lomma and Eslöv, which is also owned by Kraftringen, the network. But then it's also connected to 2 other cities, which is Landskrona and Helsingborg, where there are 2 different district heating operators. So we are forming a district heating network of 5 cities and towns by 3 operators, which works. That there is a sort of a marketplace where it says on who should be the producer of if there are excess heat or if there is deficiency of heat, the heat is needed. So this is a very large-scale operation that has been since I forgot the year, but around 2015 it was inaugurated. This connection to all the cities. Next slide, please. And so all this connection to the different cities, that was traditional district heating with heating around 90 degrees. In a new district in the northeastern part of Lund, we are now building a new cool low temperature district heating that is where the heat is generated from waste heat that we are recovering from 2 research facilities, heating the whole area. And at the same time, we are collaborating both between the city and the energy company Kraftringen, but also with several different actors in the project we call CoolDH. And we are developing new solutions with a lower temperature, new materials in the piping. And also some of the speakers we will hear of soon are working within this project. And we're also collaborating with another city in Denmark, where they also have a low temperature district heating network that they are making. And you're welcome to go into the website cooldh.eu, where you can go on a virtual study tour to see how it looks in reality, Corona safe. And that was very briefly about the work we're doing in Lund. So thank you very much for listening. Emilia.
Thank you. Thank you for that excellent presentation and really excellent example of how this cross-border collaboration between cities, towns, countries really has driven to this innovation to the point where you have 100% fossil-free network. I think it's very impressive. Few cities can boast that. So thank you for that contribution. Are there any questions for Marcus so far? I saw a hand being raised really quickly and then it lowered. Please don't be afraid to ask the questions. Great, I see. Valdes, let me see if I can allow you to talk. Great, good morning. And what's your question for Marcus? Valdes, hi. Unfortunately, we cannot hear you. Might it be easier if you write your question in the chat? All right. While we wait for Valdas to ask the question either verbally or through the chat, Marcus, I think this is a really excellent example, but I guess it hasn't been a smooth ride with this collaboration because you have different actors with different interests. I can imagine, particularly, I'm thinking, let's look at the connection you had between the cities. How did you get people to overcome their own interests in benefit of the common interests between all the actors?
Yes, I just saw the question now arriving, but yes, it has. I think with the large-scale systems, it was actually economical beneficial for all the actors to connect instead of putting an extra heating source. You could use the surplus from the neighboring city. So there are economic incentives there. And as the question was here, just that I can read. Sorry, I lost it. There is a collaboration between these three operators, the district heating operators. They take turn in leading the steering of the network. So they have 1 year each. So every third year they are leading this operation. But then they also had this marketplace where they decide on which production sites should be prioritized. And usually it's with the lowest cost, so that it will be beneficial for all parties.
Right. So there's not only the social or the ecological benefit, but the financial benefit, which talks to companies, right? It's the bottom line.
Yes.
Wonderful. Yes. I see here the questions from the chat. Wonderful. Thank you, Pauline, for your support. Is this in the network, the energy sources, is it biomass-based district heating system? Is there cogeneration as well?
It's actually a multi-source generation. We have biomass is the largest part, where it's cogeneration with electricity. But we also have geothermal, including heat pumps, but also a lot of residual heat that is recovered from wastewater, from industries, and from research facilities in this case. So there are many sources.
Thank you. And I see we have Brian Van Mathisen, which is an honor to have you here. Thank you for listening to us. He writes that in Denmark, we attach detached house more and more new buildings. Is it the same in Lund, where new buildings with low energy demands are very fit with new lower temperature systems, and Danes request new district heating? I'm guessing this has to do with the transition to lowering the temperature in the network. What does it look like in Lund?
Yes, there has been some housing detached, some turning to gas and some turning to heat pumps. But we see now that in this district that we're viewing at the moment, with the low temperature, we can compete with the heat pumps. And with the new price tariffs, it's very interesting for the housing owners. There are still some regulations in Sweden that favors heat pumps, actually. The government regulations that are some subsidies if you be building rental apartments that favors heat pumps. But this will change very soon, so it will be more even competition between the heat sources. So then we think we can recover the market share for district heating.
And here you see once again the collaboration between the energy company and the city, another cross-border collaboration, which is important to have that dialogue, right? Wonderful. Yes. One last question for you, Marcus. It's really been great to get all these questions from the audience, and then we'll move forward to this, because I promise you have very interesting presentations coming up. From Valdas, I apologize if I butcher your name. How is the competition among the heat producers? Is there a competition between your heat producers? And how is it organized?
No, it's not a competition between the heat producers. If you're looking at the large-scale system where cities are connected, it's a collaboration. And as I said, there is a marketplace where it's decided which production site that should be prioritized. I wouldn't call it competition. I would call it collaboration instead.
We like the word collaboration. Thank you very much, Marcus. We'll hear back from you at the end in the discussion session. But before we lose more time, it hasn't been time lost, but I would like to welcome Patrick. We heard Marcus talk about this collaboration between utility companies in a very centralized area. You're going to talk about a little bit about cross-company, but more for the industrial side. So not necessarily utility companies, but the people working with the utility companies and the importance of collaborating between them.
Yeah, correct. I was about to give you an example about collaboration between the market providers.
Excellent.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here today. My name is Patrick Isaksson, and I'm the commercial product manager of CTTM. And I would like to give you an introduction to this collaboration that we mentioned among market providers that we call CTTM Optimizer. Next slide, please. But just to start with, I will give you just some overall flavors of CTTM for those of you who doesn't know us. We are a company, European company, pan-European company, that is one of the leading providers of substations and HIUs. We've been around pretty much since district heating was implemented in large scale in Sweden and Europe, meaning 60 years ago. And since 2018, we are part of the NIBE group. We today have production facilities in Sweden, in France, in the Czech Republic, Finland, Russia, and the US, but of course has sales offices pretty much all over Europe. Next slide. So, to collaborate, I think that you need to talk to people. And this is what we do. So when we meet with our customers, the energy operators, we always ask them what are their challenges as being an energy company or an energy operator when it comes to the development of district heating, meaning both new development, but also, of course, development within existing networks. And these 5 topics are the things that I often mention. The overall topic is, of course, that they need to lower, or they want to lower, the operational and maintenance costs of the network due to the fact that they are not really allowed to raise the prices for district heating. So to gain better margins, they need to lower their costs. So lower operational cost and maintenance cost is of high essence for these companies. They also like to be better in control, or actually to manage control of the demand side of the network. They are quite in good control of production and distribution, but the consumption side, the demand side, is not in control. So raising that potential and giving them that tool would be important for them. Also, they say that the implementation of new digital solutions, it's quite time consuming and it is costly due to the fact that a lot of these solutions are not really, how should I put it, turnkey. And those other companies, energy companies, they are energy engineers, not IT engineers. So the more you could have turnkey solutions provided to them, the better. They also like to engage and create benefits for all stakeholders in the value chain. And I think this is very important because a lot of those silo solutions give some gain or benefits for only one stakeholder in the eco chain. We need to provide something that actually brings benefits for all of them. And of course, they would like to improve customer interaction. Next slide, please. So based on this, we actually introduced an updated strategy. So the new CTTM strategy to attract the market demands that I just mentioned is, of course, we should even further support these energy companies to meet their challenges. That's one part of collaboration. We should also, and we have, adopted digitalization and make that part of our new business as usual. That's what it looks like today. But we should not invent wheels. We should collaborate with leading market actors on the market. So, and the next slide. We just recently launched the cross-border collaboration solution that we call CT-Term Optimizer, which is a smart and connected substation. The optimizer is a district heating substation with an online service for the energy operators that enables optimization and monitoring of the heating system in the building, aiming to reduce the energy usage without jeopardizing the comfort in indoor climate. So this is a complete heating solution with an integrated online controller that is, of course, connected also to the heat meter, so that you will have direct access to the heating system remote. But CT-Term doesn't do controllers. So in this case, we have done a cooperation with Siemens. I think you could move on in the slide a little bit, so you will have some logos there. Thank you. So since we don't do controllers, we cooperated with one of the market leaders in doing online controllers, which means Siemens. The solution also comprises of wireless indoor temperature sensors so that we could actually monitor and check the indoor climate. But since CT-Term doesn't do sensors, we partnered up with Redeco, whom is providing this to the service. This solution also has an AI algorithm for energy efficiency embedded in the service. This AI algorithm is supporting the controller to do even better operation, and it's basing its decisions on the thermal inertia of the building, of weather forecast, of social behavior of the building. Taking this all into the equation, you could support the controller to do even better operations in the building. However, CT-Term doesn't provide algorithms. So we did a cooperation with Noda that is providing this to the service. To manage all this in the cloud, we need to have a secure data management platform with an API so that the energy operators can actually gain access to all this data that we are now giving them from the buildings. However, CT-Term doesn't provide management platforms or integrated APIs. So we cooperated with the company called Crossbreed to do this. Finally, there is a web user interface so that both the energy companies and, of course, the building owners could have access to all the data, the performance, the reports, the alarms that the heating system brings. But as you probably guessed, CT-Term does not do a web user interface. So even here, we cooperated with Siemens and Crossbreed. So next slide. What did we then get? Well, this collaboration actually brought us a substation that turned into a smart heating solution that brings values to all the stakeholders in the eco chain. As we said before, this was important. So the values for the customers, meaning our customers, the building owners, is that they will have a reduced energy usage by approximately 15%. And these figures are validated by existing beta versions that are out there. They will also have real-time access to the heating system so that they can see performance, alarms, and reports, and how everything works. And of course, they will also gain improved support and services since their heating solution is now online. The values for the energy operators, outside, of course, being attractive in that sense that they are bringing this service to their customers, is that they will have improved network performance via lower return temperatures, which we have seen is very important, and better flow. It's also a turnkey solution, which doesn't mean that they have to be IT developers or integrators, with full access to the customer's heating system. Due to that, they will have improved customer interaction and, of course, being able to offer support and service management to the customers. One other thing that I think is very important here is that now the building is connected. Now you are actually in the control of the demand side, which means that the buildings are now prepared for future optimization solutions like system temperature management, load balancing, peak shaving, or hybrid heating solution that will come either now or in the future. You now have access to the demand side. But maybe the most important thing, of course, if you lower the kilowatt hours and if you are reducing the kilowatts, you will reduce the CO2 emissions, which is of high value for the community. So this, I think, is quite a good example, actually, of the collaboration synergies that is driving innovation between market providers. Thank you. That was my final slide.
Thank you. Yes, sometimes the connection is a little slower. So thank you very much, Patrick, for this fascinating
Thank you for having me.
Presentation. It really, as I think of one of our colleagues, Tomislav, which many of you know, says like, this sounds like science fiction to me and to many of us. So it's really great to see, okay, the future is here. We can do this. I would like to welcome everybody in the audience, all our 58 attendees. Please ask questions, any question you may have, but while we wait for people to think about their questions and put them in the Q&A session, I have a question. I really like the humility you had of, this is our goal, but we can't do this. There are other people who are better than us at doing this, and that's their specialty. And really, there's where we see, okay, you build on each other's strengths. How did you choose who to collaborate with? How was that process?
I think that's a good question. And that is a little bit also that we found actors who actually shared our strategy here. We have we call it dare to share strategy. You need to be transparent, you need to be open. I mean, we are the market leaders when it comes to hydraulic. We do make the best substations in the world. However, we do not make the best controllers, the best sensors, the best algorithms, and so on in the world. So here we actually looked at market actors that we know of and explained the idea to them. And some said, this is interesting, this supports our strategy on how it should look like. Some didn't. Those are not mentioned in the presentation, the other ones are. So that's a little bit how it works. And I think that sometimes it's better to have half of some than all of nothing. So this is how collaboration works, I think. And the good thing with the optimizer is that it's not just a fiction, it's out there, it's implemented. It's actually in the Cool DH project that Marcus talked about earlier. It's already implemented in Lund, for instance. So the figures that I'd shown, they are not just theoretical figures, they're accurate figures. So it's there. The future is actually in the past already.
The future's in the past. And I like also what you mentioned of, it's better to have part of something, nothing at all, nothing of the whole. And how would you have a tip to our listeners of how do you convince them, okay, to go maybe out of your collaborators out of their comfort zone and look at this new solution that hasn't been implemented, but how did you convince them that there are benefits and strengths to be had in collaborating between companies?
That was actually quite easy because we looked at the challenges our mutual customer has, the energy operators. So if they say that this is a problem, then we have a problem to solve. And I think that was the easiest and fastest way to actually get them on board. And they have been very supportive. I mean, without our partners there, we wouldn't be able to do this. We don't have this knowledge. Together with them, now we have. And we decided to be the one that put it behind our brand and to sell it to the market. But it could have been anyone actually, but this is how we think it should be. And we have seen good traction from the market that we are doing this. And that it's actually not just one actor trying to build yet another silos, but it's a collaboration. And this is open. I mean, it could be even more actors that could be integrated to this solution. All the APIs, all the standards are up.
Thank you. This is great. So we will hear more about you in the discussion session at the end of this presentation.
I'll go on with my fika.
Great, wonderful. I would like to invite Anders. You are business developer at Wideco. So we heard you have worked with Patrick in this solution. He talked about the cross-company collaboration. Can you tell us a little bit more about the technological part, the more technical part of this collaboration?
Yeah. Thank you. Wideco's goal is to make innovative technology systems that increase operational safety by measuring, localizing, and preventing leaks in pipeline systems and confined spaces underground in good time. Today, when we have the IoT revolution and the business are at the forefront of technology, we also offer IoT sensors for smart buildings, industries, and cities. Next slide, please. We are family owned and we are leader in district heating and leak detection in Europe and Middle East. And we also provide IoT solutions that ensures complete control over infrastructures worldwide. We are established in 1982, so we are about 40 years old now. And our products, we monitor and safeguard more than 40,000 kilometers of transmission and distribution networks and 6,000 chambers man-hours across the globe. We currently have offices in Borås in Sweden and in Lyon in France. Next slide, please. And since 1982, we have helped the energy companies to lower the operational cost of the network by detect and localize leaks in district heating pipes. And that, of course, reduces energy. Next slide, please. And we use our manhole monitoring system to monitor water leaks, temperature, humidity, and leak detection below ground. And everything is connected to our IoT platform. Next slide, please. And in the same platform, we have integrated about 40 different sensors that we use in different projects, from temperature to parking sensors and ultrasonic sensors and leak control sensors. And it's in the same platform, everything. Next slide, please. And Wideco offers a unique platform where alarm devices from monitoring pipes and chambers underground are combined with wireless IoT sensor for smart cities and industry. And in the innovative project with CT-Term, Wideco is to deliver IoT sensor that measures temperatures in the property and provide an API integration for the operation of the sensors to CT-Term's optimizer. Next slide, please. So we collaborate a lot with CT-Term and others, and I think we use different techniques for different projects.
Thank you. This is very interesting to get a little bit of a more detailed example of that technological collaboration. And I'd like to invite other speakers to turn on your cameras and microphones so we can have a nice discussion. Are there any question from Anders, for Anders or any of the other speakers? If so, please do write them in the Q&A session. I have a question for you. We've learned about these fantastic solutions. Just to get the discussion going, how do you feel that the collaboration you just presented contributes to the green energy transition? Marie.
First out, thank you. And now what I wanted to say is that even if Sweden has a very long experience within heating and cooling solutions, we drive really the sustainability, we drive innovation. You have seen two perfect examples here with the CT-Term optimizer and Wideco and Lund City. We still need to get better. And when we collaborate over the borders, when we meet other companies in other countries and other operators, municipalities, we see their challenge sometimes and how they have solved them. So we every time we have organized activities with, for example, French stakeholders, we see that even the Swedish stakeholders can get inspired. How could we engage with this? How could we adapt our solution or our thinking, our planning to maybe to support the French actor or bring it to Sweden? So I think this continuous inspirational way to drive these solutions further. So that's we see that every day. It's really inspiring. I think, as you said, Patrick, here, the CT-Term is and Wideco work a lot with in several markets. I'm sure this gives you also inspiration on how to develop the solution. So really the cross-border between different stakeholders and with different countries is really the way to go forward. And we support with that, of course, within the Sustainable Heating and Cooling by Sweden initiative, for sure, together with you all.
Thank you. Patrick, do you have a comment to that? How do you feel you contribute to this energy transition?
I think Maria's onto something good, and I also think that moving towards this more renewable energy systems that we are facing, you need to be much better in control of what you're actually doing, because the margins in everything you do are much smaller. So you need to be able to operate this much better. And due to that fact, I think that I'm talking quite a lot about digitalization, but I really have that in a favor, because I think that you need to be much more online, and you need to let's say, be able to connect all the things between production, distribution, consumption, and storage in a much more clever way than we are doing today, because systems of the future will not be oversized. So we need to actually utilize from every little kilowatt or kilowatt hour there is in a clever way. And to do so, digitalization needs to support that. And then we know that there are so many different stakeholders in this eco-chain. So they need to, let's say, be able to connect to this entire eco-chain. Otherwise, we will not be able to do this. So that's why I think collaboration is so important, achieving those goals.
Thank you. You mentioned digitalization, and it's key. I was thinking, Anders, could you expand on this in your experience, because this is your specialization. Some people may say, well, digitalization, then you need big data centers. They take a lot of energy and so on. But what about the positive? How is this digitalization helping make the systems more efficient?
Yeah, I think we have to use all the new technology that exists. We have the IoT sensors, and I think that's a good way to mix different technologies and to make the green transition. I actually think it's necessary, and I think we need to collaborate all of us to do that.
Thank you. Marcus, so we've heard about these actors, how they contribute. I think it was very clear in your presentation. What do you need to be able to do more? How does a city like Lund, where it's like, okay, you have your green energy system, you're collaborating, you're innovative. There's always a possibility to do more, isn't there? And what would you need? What type of support would you need to be able to continue in this trajectory?
You can always do more. There is no limit. Well, what we see is that we, as a city, we are setting targets, we are setting goals. We should reach this level. Now we decrease the carbon emissions by 50% for the whole geographical area of the municipality. But now we have sort of picked the easy fruit. And it's getting more and more difficult. And of course, there are limits to what we can do as a city and how we can affect the citizens, but also the whole society. And therefore, we need to collaborate. We also need the government, and we need EU level to have regulations and so on that we can act upon, because we do not control what people put in their cars, for instance. Is it petrol? Is it diesel? Is it electricity? Those kinds of things. We can help them to put up charging stations and so on, but we cannot decide for them. There we need cooperation with government level and even EU level. And the same is actually for the heating sector. We can't force people to use district heating. We can just provide a good alternative. So that is what we're trying to do.
Thank you. And actually, I would like to ask this question to the audience. Is there anybody who feels okay of what you've heard here? What do you think needs to be done at a city level, or what can you get, for example, your heating power in collaboration with Celsius and Sustainable Heating Cooling? What would you need to do more? So please do write that in the Q&A function or in the chat function. We'd love to get your feedback. What do you feel? Would Marie, Patrick, or Anders, would you like to complement Marcus's answer? what needs to be done? What would you need? What type of support would you need, maybe from your clients or from a European level, to be able to take this transition even further?
I think Marcus is onto something also. I mean, we have to have, as I said, every stakeholder on board in this. So I think that knowledge, education, sharing what district heating, for instance, actually is, I think also is quite important. For me, district heating is the ultimate sharing economy. I mean, it's optimal in that sense, to be honest. But I don't think that the everyday people knows about this. And I don't also think that all the improvement that has been within district heating over the years, like Cool DH is a very good example of, has been shared. I know it's been shared in Lund, but it needs to be shared much broader to make district heating much more attractive, I would say. I think that is one issue that is of high importance. And these kind of seminars, spreading broader, it's a good example of how we should do this.
Maria, how do you see your role in this? Sharing these solutions?
Yes, I fully agree. Is that us here, and I suppose a lot of people listening in, we are sort of convinced of the benefits of district heating and cooling, and we have to broaden it to sustainable heating and cooling solutions in the broader perspective, I think. And so what we need is what you say here, Patrick, is to everybody in all the ecosystem, the users also, what's in it for me. It's always that thought, what's in it for me as a common person, me in my house, me in my dwelling. So I think it's really how you communicate. It's a pedagogy, I don't know, pedagogy, or in English, pedagogy, how you communicate and what level and spread the word, and with simple words. But I'm also convinced that this is really the solution, the key, and I'm happy when the EU considered it more and more. So that's a great work from the Great Empower, I think, Federation. But we have to go out to the whole ecosystem. I think also, when you attack and you bring other solutions within the system, more people will know about it. But you have to bring what's in it for you in every level, I think. And the sustainability, now everyone is convinced for the sustainability goals. So that's one key, but also what it brings when it comes to innovation, developments, work positions. So all these areas are important to bring forward. So we will for sure, we tried in our level, and we would like to do more and to exchange and discuss more with different stakeholders in the countries where we're present. So yeah, just to do more and to have interaction and to share, be generous with your experiences and listen in and to share and taking also. So yeah.
Thank you. I think you have a very interesting there as you see sort of a chain effect, right? And then this is a classic curve in any product production, is you have the early adopters and then everybody catches on. And so how do you can push for people to catch on? And this is a great transition also to the question here that Mart has put in the chat. Thank you for the question. Is do you have any cooperations on an EU level? Sweden seems to be quite ahead in district heating and cooling compared to continental Europe. And I'm really thankful for this question, because it's one of the things we wrote in the description of this workshop is, in Sweden, it's great we do these things, but where we really can have an impact is in these countries that are still being heavily reliant on coal, on natural gas. How can we help that? Because it's not, climate change does not discriminate between countries or ages or social classes. We need to work together. What type of collaborations do you have at a European level? And I would like to add that, how can we improve them? Anders?
I think we need to have more webinars like this and discuss it with other countries as well. Yeah, we are ahead in Sweden, but I think we can spread the word and use the technology in all European countries as well as we do here in Sweden. I think we need to do that.
Thank you. Marcus, you collaborate quite a bit, and it's something that's really great to see. Working many cities and local energy companies I've talked in Sweden, they're like, no, we're happy and we have our own thing, we're good enough. Why would we want to collaborate with others? what do you see are the benefits, and how can we continue in this European or even international collaboration?
Well, as I said, we are not on the market, so we are not attracting customers. But and the same thing is actually for the power company that we have. They can't go abroad to have a market. But by collaborating, we can learn things. And as you said, we might be good at some things, but we're not best at everything. So we can learn a lot of things from other players as well. And I must say, just a couple of weeks ago, there was a Celsius meeting where I learned a lot of things from another city. So yes, we can still learn a lot from others, I think.
Thank you. I'm glad. It's always nice to hear that these foreigner groups are working and that you find them useful. You mentioned something that is you're good at some things, but not at everything. It reminds me of what you mentioned earlier, Patrick. Can you expand a little bit of your presence in Europe and how do you plan on strengthening these collaborations and sharing this innovation that's happening in Sweden, but is very relevant in other countries and other cities?
I think it was a very interesting question from Mark. I think it's twofold actually. I think because there are existing district heating networks and there are still white areas on the map. So I think when it comes to existing district heating network, we could collaborate in any market because there are some, let's say, generic needs, you could say. And from a city time perspective and an optimizer perspective, this would work pretty much in every area that we have been mentioning here in Europe, because Europe is our home market. There are a little bit some differences when it comes to markets outside of Europe. But the other thing is, of course, how could we make district heating grow within new development? And here I think that it needs to also be that the technology is supportive. I think the overall question here is how can we make it easier to implement district heating? And that's for every stakeholder, whether it's a city, whether it's a provider like us, or it's the government. That is the overall question that they need to ask themselves. And then I think that could trigger, because once there is a decision, once it's being implemented, the technology is there. We don't have technology issues with climate change. We have political ones. So I fully support that. I don't know if that answered the question, but I think that's of high importance. I think it is a very good question. It needs to be pan-European if this should work. We have some good knowledge from Sweden. We're happy to share that. There is other good knowledge from outside of Europe. Please share.
Thank you. And I think Mark answered that you don't have to be the best. Good is good enough. And it's a great point. What's your comment? What's your reaction to that, Patrick?
I totally agree. It's better to start, actually. I mean, we all know we are only at the first steps of a marathon here, coming to the goals that we are about to achieve in 2050. But better to start than not to. Discussions will not bring climate change, to be honest. Implementations will. Discussions are needed to support it, but we need to start to do things. So that's why I think that these kind of collaborations that we have seen from Lund are brilliant. I think we should have this story being told to every city in Europe, that this is what you actually could do. We know that there are industries, there are production of electricity, all of those gain access heat, utilize it. There are solutions to do so. So I think there is now I'm on a macro level, but I think this is a so interesting discussion to have. And I think everything is just about trying to find how can we make it easier to implement this.
What do you think, Marcus?
There is a lot of waste heat, and more will come from the digital hubs. And as our Danish partner, they are actually reusing the heat from data centers. And they're actually connecting it together with solar power. So I think they have a very interesting case using local energy and returning cooling, selling cooling and returning heating. So yeah, there are many interesting ways to do it.
Right. I'd actually like to take this opportunity to ask the audience, how many of you know that there are data centers in your city or in your surroundings? Raise your hand. And did you know, are there, just to get an idea of how this possibility is feasible anywhere you are? So either raise your hand or just write here in the chat, just to get an idea. And I would like also to ask Anders what this, great. Thank you, Michael. Michiel, sorry. In the Netherlands, data centers are feasible and willing, absolutely. As we get these answers from the data centers, I'd like to ask you, Anders, we see this constantly evolving evolution. We need to be on our toes. What Patrick said earlier, we're at the beginning of a marathon. There's a lot to be done, and there's a lot to be done at different levels, because what's going to be implemented in Lund next year is not necessarily relevant for Croatia or for Italy or for France, Mary, where you are. But then how do you adapt that? Sort of, it feels like you need to be moving on this uneven ground with different needs, different necessities, and so different technological aspects that come up. How do you adapt to those from your perspective?
I think it's we can still learn from each other. Yes, we have it's different between the countries, but I still think it's basically the same type of technology that we use, but we use it in different ways in different countries, and so I think it's we can learn a lot from Croatia as well, or other countries, but we can have the same technology and use it in different ways. So I think we just need to understand the different needs in different countries, and then I think it's possible to implement kind of the same solutions, but we have to tweak it a bit.
What do you have to say to that, Mai? Because you work a lot with, okay, you have these fantastic solution demonstrator that worked in one country, for example, in Sweden. And then how, when you talk to the cities in France or in the Netherlands or in the UK, staying within Europe, based on the presentation you made, how do you go about understanding the local needs and thus really helping them to satisfy the challenges or address the challenges they're facing?
We use these a lot.
They're useful.
Listening, I think it's really, really important to listen, to have several conversations. Now with not meeting physically, it's difficult for, as French I am, but it's really important thing to listening to step by step, to share what we have done in some countries, and then to listen what are your needs and what are your capabilities and what you have local. As you said, it's really, you should use what you have local, data center or waste heat from industries, or for the cooling, do you have water close to your plant, and to discuss. And we have great consultancy companies that could support with this, and we, for our part, we mix the Swedish Energy Agency with their perspective. How could you, with the regulation and how that can support, we should speak more with the local regulators also, and then to have experts, suppliers, cities. So we mix the ecosystem from Sweden to listen in to the needs from a local city or municipality or operator, and then we discuss. And then, as you all say, we have to listen to adapt. Maybe you can't do the copy paste always. You have to adapt. So I think it's really important. It takes the time, but listening what has already been done in other areas. So for sure, I think there is a solution for everyone, and it's just to have. I know the finance part is a big issue. In France, you have these great heat funds from the French energies. This is really something I should, inspire all the other countries. I think it's a great thing, the heat funds, stimulating and going forward in the implementation in France for the heat networks, and also for biomass, etc. So we can inspire in both in different ways. So, but listening and share, I think that's key. And not be afraid of innovation, digitalization. That's really needed.
Yeah, I think that what you mentioned there, financing is key, and there are resources out there, and it's something I want to stress, because often people, as you will see in the South Toolbox, there's an article that says the reuse heat made a study. Oksana, correct me if I'm wrong, and that they interviewed bankers and financiers, and they said, we have the money, we're just looking for the projects. And then on the other hand, you say cities and actors, like, we have the project, but we need the money. And there are actions being taken to get them in touch. Oftentimes, one of the challenges we see is they don't necessarily speak the same language. But for example, the Smart Cities Marketplace, also within the EU, that's what they're specializing in. So there are solutions. And I think I don't know what you guys think, one of the key things is there are solutions out there, you just need to find them and contact them, and so there are financing solutions out there, and there are technological solutions that are adaptable to your local needs. If there are no more questions from the audience, unfortunately, good things must come to an end, and it's time for us to start wrapping up, but we'll do this slowly. So as we wrap up, as we start sort of concluding this, I'd like to ask each of you for your final thoughts. And within this, what recommendations do you give our listeners here for the next couple days and during this Congress, but also once they go home and once they continue, or once they go home, once they continue in their daily lives, as they continue at home, what are your recommendations to collaborate and to find those synergies? Because sometimes you collaborate, but it's difficult to find the synergies. So what would you recommend for them to do? And any of you would like to start?
Well, I think to absorb knowledge and share knowledge is very important. And I think, as Marie said, also listen to the market. They will define the challenges, and then we are, as providers, should be trying to meet it. And I think that there will be a lot of these good discussions, presentations these coming days that will show a lot of good initiatives. Absorb them and share them. That's my view.
Thank you. Anders, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's important to learn from each other and look at other projects and the market. I think that's what we all have to do to be able to collaborate in different projects.
Marcus?
And don't forget to borrow good arguments from others, because there is a lot of people still to convince that this is a good thing.
With pride, yes, I love that expression.
I think it's from a system perspective, district heating is very good, and it's very good of achieving carbon goals, climate goals. So I think we should continue to pursue them, that we can reach these goals and set high goals so that we can have something to strive towards. That's, I would say, it's good, and do that together.
High goals together. As we all agree, we need to act now, and we need to act quickly. Marie, what do you?
Yeah, I agree with all my friends here, of course, and I think it's really to work on different levels. We do, and it's good to do work in the small level and also the broader level. Every pass, every step is good if it's in the right direction. So, because otherwise it's getting too big. So I think that the small meetings, the bigger meetings, and all the Congress that you're empowering, that's really good. But then we have to reach out to the others that are not here. And I think the politicians, of course, and the finance. I think next theme would be the finance system, Emilia. We should really attract all the banks. If they said, we should. Then we should talk to them and show the best practice and the benefits. I think, because now it's a lot about new business models and they share the cake, so to say, between different actors. You have different systems. For example, in France, in Denmark, and Sweden, it's really different. The concession system in France, and you have another market in Denmark. So then you can inspire also each other how to put that. But I think to reach out and for everybody knows a lot of people. So at your dinner, as a private person, you can reach out also and talk about this. I think small waves, big sea. So continue to do the work we do here together and over the borders. We cross border with some parts actions and do more. And I think our politicians needs to do more now with the recovery plan ongoing for the greener transition. This is the key. You can't. You have to invest more in the district heating, cooling, other sustainable heating and cooling solutions. So that's my take. Do step by step, but also have not forget the big picture and who is sitting on the money and the decisions.
Thank you. And it feels so maybe that's the theme to the next is cross-border inspiration, right? How do you, the cross-border inspiration. And speaking of subjects for upcoming sessions, for those of you who registered through the Celsius and the Sustainable Heating and Cooling by Sweden invitation, Renee, I see you're here and you asked a really interesting question about how to organize marketplace and support and learn deliver with local partners. It's a fascinating, I think it's what we would need a whole workshop on this. So we'll take it with us and see maybe if we can address this all together in the coming days. So thank you very much for that question. I apologize we didn't have time to cover it here, but it really would have not done it justice. Having said this, I would like to thank you all for your contributions, for being here. And I would like, we have, I believe, 1 minute left before our participants go on to the next really exciting and full program that Euroheating Power has programmed today. But I'd like to ask our speakers to go to the chat and send a message to all the panelists and attendees with your contact information. I have done so right now. Here you see the information and the contact for Celsius. But I would love to, in case you'd like to contact, you can always contact us and I'll put you in touch with the others. But so please do feel free to write your contact information in case some of the panelists would like to reach you. Thank you very, very much for your time, for your contributions to the people on the other side, sitting at home or at the office. Thank you for taking the time to listening to us today.
Thank you, Emilia. Thank you all, Marcus, Anders, and Patrick. Thank you all out there. Weird not to see you, to see the attendees. But...
Yeah, coffee, sorry. So thanks. And I hope you all enjoy. Will you all take the time to enjoy, hopefully listen in to the following sessions at the Congress? I strongly recommend it.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.